Hey guys, this is homework number 18. We start off with an example, just like always. In this example, the company has $77,024 to divide among 32 employees. So right away, we know that 77,024 is our divisor, or our dividend, and 32 is our divisor. So they start right away by saying how many times does 32 go into 77? And the answer is twice. Now that 32 times 2 gives us 64. So we want to subtract 64 from that 77. Keep in mind, when we're taking this 77, it's in the thousands place. So this isn't just 77, this is 77 thousands, which means if 32 times 2 is 64, that 2 has to go in our thousands place. So right away, I know that there's a little apostrophe after the 2 to indicate that it's in that thousands place. So then they bring down the other numbers and they continue with the standard algorithm until they eventually get 2,407. It's important to know what place value you're working with when you're doing your subtraction, because that's how you're going to figure out what digit to put that part of the quotient in. Moving on to the back now. Number 4 says a sporting goods company ships their baseballs in cartons that hold 48 balls. How many cartons will they need to ship 1,400 balls? So I set up my equation. I know I'm going to take that 1,400 and I'm going to divide it into groups of 48. So question A says, how can I find the number of cartons? Simple, by dividing 1,400 by 8. B says, what is the quotient and what does the remainder mean? So in this one, I know I'm going to have a remainder and now I have to solve for the quotient. So I'm going to get out my scrap paper. I'm going to start by making multiples of 48 because I'm dividing by 48. So 48 plus 48 is 96. All right, so right away, set up my equation. 48, 1,400. Now, does 48 go into 14? It does not, but 48 does go into 140. Now, that 140 is really in the tens place, so it's 140 tens. So whatever I end up multiplying my 48 by and subtracting, it's going to go in my tens place up here. So I've got my ones, got my tens, I've got my hundreds, I've got my thousands. So if I look over at my multiples of 48, I can get close to 140 by using 48 times 2, which is 96. So I'm going to subtract 96 from that 140. And I have to remember that that 2 is going to go in my tens place because that 140 that I'm working from is in the tens place. So my 2 goes there. Okay, so 0, bring down. 0 minus 6 is 4. If I borrow from this, that becomes a 13. Minus 9 is 4. So now we're left with 440. And looking at my multiples of 48, I can see that 48 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 will give me 432. That's about as close to 440 as I can get. Now this 440 goes all the way to the ones place, which means when I subtract my 432, 48 times 9, my 9 is going to go in the ones place because this 440 is 440 ones. So 440 minus 432 leaves me with 8. Can I get 48 out of 8? I cannot, which means 8 is going to be my remainder. So my answer is 29 with a remainder of 8. Remember that 8 is really 8 out of 48. It's a fraction or a part of the whole. So if we take a look at our question, a sporting goods company ships their baseballs in cartons that hold 48 balls. How many cartons will they need to ship 1,400 balls? So their answer is 29 cartons. But then we end up with 8 balls left over. So assuming that they need to put those 8 balls in a carton also, that means that we're going to need one more carton. And it's not going to be a full carton. It's only going to have 8 balls in it. But we're still going to need one more carton. So we're actually going to round up to 20 or to 30. So what is the quotient? The quotient is 29, remainder 8, and that 8 is 8 balls left over. So how many cartons will the company need? Well, once again, they need those 8 balls to go in a carton also, which means we're going to add one more and end up with 30 cartons. Remember to label your numbers. Don't just write 30, write 30 cartons so that we know what you're talking about. So there's question number 4. For question 5, Henry has a length of string that is 2,850 centimeters long. He needs some pieces that are 78 centimeters long for an art project. What is the greatest number of pieces that Henry can cut? So we're taking 2,850 and we're dividing it by 78. So right away, I'm going to start by writing down my multiples of 78, which I've done on my scrap paper here. So here are my multiples of 78. I'm going to go ahead and set up my problem. 2,850 divided by 78. All right, so let's take a look. Does 78 go into 2? No. Does 78 go into 28? No. Does 78 go into 285? Yes, it does. So I'm going to look over to the side here, and I can get 78 to fit in 3 times into 285. Now that 3 is going to end up going in my tens place again, because this is 285 tens, because 5 is in the tens place. So if 78 times 3 is 234, I go ahead and subtract that and bring down my 0. 5 minus 4 is 1. 8 minus 3 is 5. 2 minus 2 is 0. So now we're working with the number 510. Can 78 go into 510? Yes, it can. So let's take a look. 78 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Because 7 times will bring us to 546, which is too high. So 78 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is going to give me 468. Now that 6 goes in the ones place because this is 510 ones. So we've gone all the way to the ones place now, which means our 6 goes in the ones place. We subtract that, and we're left with 42. Can 78 go into 42? No, it cannot, which leaves us with a remainder of 42. There's your answer, 36, remainder 42. So let's go back to our problem. So what is the greatest number of pieces Henry can cut? So we're not going to include our remainder in here because they're not asking for half pieces. They want to know how many full 78 centimeter pieces he can cut. So we're just going to simply drop our remainder and put 36. Because if you have a remainder of 42 centimeters, that's not long enough for a 37th strip. So in these problems, once you get the remainder, it's all about discovering if you need to round up or down for your final answer. And that's going to depend on the problem that you're working with, the context of the problem. What's the story? Are you putting things in boxes? Are you cutting things into pieces? That's going to let you know if you should round up or down after you get that remainder. Moving on to number 6. One of the buses in a bus company's fleet recorded 46,736 miles traveled. This was after a total of 92 trips. What was the average distance traveled on each trip? So I'm going to go ahead and set up my problem. I know it's 46,736 divided by 92. I'm not very familiar with my 92 times tables, so I'm going to real quick get a piece of scrap paper and write my multiples of 92. So we've got 92 plus 92 is 184, 276. Now 92 doesn't go into 4, and 92 doesn't go into 46, but 92 does go into 467. Now that 7 is in the hundreds place. So we know that whatever we multiply 92 by and subtract, that's going to go in our hundreds place, because really it's 467 hundreds. So 92 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gives me 460. And that 5 goes in the hundreds place because we're subtracting 460 hundreds from 467 hundreds. So I can go ahead and do the next step, bring down my 3 and my 6. 467 minus 460 gives me 7 here. So 736. Now I can look over here and I can say, well, this is 736 ones, right? Because this is in the ones place here. So what can I multiply 92 by to get 736 ones? The answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 times 92 is 736. I can go and subtract that. 736 minus 736 is 0. And my answer is 58. But wait a second, didn't I say that 8 should be in the ones place because we have 736 ones? I did. So what do you think we need to put in that tens place? The 8's not going to go there. The 5 is in the hundreds and the 8 is in the ones, which means in that tens place we simply have nothing. We have a 0. So my answer is going to be 508. If I had gotten 58 and I double checked my answer by multiplying, I would find that my answer does not equal 46,736. So right away, I would know that I made a mistake somewhere. And if I double check, I can find that my mistake was in my place value up top. So go ahead, double check all your answers. Always make sure that your quotient times your divisor equals your dividend. What was the average distance traveled on each trip? So the average distance traveled was 508. No naked numbers. What am I talking about? 508 miles. There's your answer to number 6. All right, number 7. Last question on the paper means it's probably going to be a 2-step problem or more. A citrus grower harvested 2,419 grapefruit and 4,395 oranges last season. He packaged the grapefruit in boxes of 18. So I know I'm going to take that 2,419 and divide by 18. And the oranges in boxes of 30. So he had 4,395 oranges divided by boxes of 30. So those are my 2 problems I'm going to have to solve first. After packing as many boxes as possible, how many pieces of fruit did the grower have left over? So pieces of fruit means grapefruit and oranges. I'm going to have to add my remainders together to answer this problem. All right, so right away, I know I'm going to need to set up my problem by writing the multiples of 18 for grapefruit and multiples of 30 for oranges. So I've gone ahead, grabbed some scrap paper, and set up my problem here. Now all that's left to do is solve. So I'm going to start with grapefruit. For grapefruit, I'm dividing by 18. Now I know 18 doesn't fit into 2, but it does fit into 24. 18 goes into 24 one time. So I know I can subtract 18 from that 24. But here's the thing. Where is my 1 going to go? Up top. So I've got my ones place, my tens place, my hundreds place, and my thousands place. So when we're looking at this 24, 4, that digit right there is in my hundreds place, which means this doesn't just represent 24, this represents 24 hundreds. So if I took 24 hundreds and I took out 18 hundreds, that 1 is actually going to go in my hundred spot. So then I can bring down my last 2 digits, and 24 minus 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 is 6. So now we've got 619. Now 18 does not go into 6, but it does go into 61. How many times? 1, 2, 3 times. So 18 times 3 is 54. So I'm going to subtract 54 from that 61. But what am I going to put in my quotient? If 18 times 3 is 54, I know it's going to be a 3, but what place value would I place it in? Well, if this 61 is in the tens place, that's 61 tens. So I'm going to put my 3 in the tens place. So now we're left with 79. Now I know that 18 times 1, 2, 3, 4 gives me 72. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. And this is 79 ones, keep in mind. So that means that my 4 goes in the ones place. 79 minus 72 leaves me with 7 left over. Can I fit that 7, or can I fit 18 into that 7? No, I cannot. So my final answer is 134, remainder 7 for the grapefruit, because I'm not done yet. Now I have to solve for oranges. Okay, so my oranges, I have 4,395 and I'm dividing them into groups of 30. So 30 does not go into 4, but it does go into 43 one time. So I'm going to subtract 30 there. But where is that 1 going to go? What's my place value for that 1 in my quotient? So let's see. Well, 43 is really 43 hundredths because 3 is in the hundreds place. So that means that my 1 is going to go in the hundreds place. So you bring down the 9 and the 5 and you subtract the rest. 3 minus 0 is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. All right. Now does 30 go into 13? It does not, but 30 does go into 139. How many times? Well, we can get as close as 120, which is 30 times 1, 2, 3, 4. So 30 times 4 is 120. And because 139 is in the tens place, the 9 is in the tens place, so that's 139 tenths, which means that my 1, 2, 3, 4 that I used to get 120 has to go in my tens place. I'll bring down my 5. 9 minus 0 is 9. 13 minus 12 is 1. 195 left. All right, so I know that 30 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gives me 180. So this is 195 ones, which means my 180, my 30 times 6 that got me that 180, that 6 has to go in the ones place. 195 minus 180 gives me 15 left. So my final answer is 146. Remainder 15 for oranges. Now, the question asks how many I'll have left over altogether. So that means that of my 7 leftover grapefruit and my 15 leftover oranges, I have to add them. 7 plus 15 equals 22 pieces of fruit. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down as my solution. 22 pieces of fruit. Remember to label your numbers. And that's how you solve question 7.